Hi, everyone. Welcome. Today, we are going to be talking about how cybercriminals trick financial firms, what your team needs to know, and what you need to do to stay ahead. If you're here, it's because you want to protect your client's data, and your firm's reputation. This session is designed to do just that in general language in about 30 minutes. So let's get started. It's great to see some new and some familiar names in here. All right, today we're going to learn how attackers think, where firms are vulnerable, and what you can do to minimize your risk. Cyber criminals are no longer targeting large corporations. Unfortunately, small and medium-sized financial firms are now high-value targets. Even businesses that just house financial data or make financial transactions are also at risk now. They do this because they're high-value targets and because they're often less protected. Your team is your first and last line of defense, and that's why this training today really matters. Here's one quick statistic to start the stage. In just 1 year, $2.9 billion was lost to business email compromise attacks, according to the FBI. This session is about helping you and your team recognize threats early, act confidently, and avoid some of the common traps that we, unfortunately, here at CyberTools see all the time. To beat the threat, we first really have to start to understand it. How do these attackers think? They go after financial firms because the data that's there is valuable. We have tax information, we have bank details, we have payroll, and much more. They're motivated by direct theft, selling client data, using your access to commit more fraud. Even small firms are vulnerable and in many cases more likely to be attacked because they're seen as easier targets. Let's look at the weak points that many businesses have and don't even realize. We have staff email boxes. Email is the top threat vector. We have bad password hygiene. We have weak, reused passwords or passwords that are stored in the wrong places. We have high value vendors like e-filing or payroll portals. They go after these vendors because they can exploit them through you and have much more of a gain. We also have, unfortunately, untrained staff. When your staff doesn't know what to watch for or what to do, it makes us really vulnerable. 90%, I thought this was quite a staggering statistic. 90% of breaches start with a phishing email. This is what that email usually looks like. It insists on urgency. It is disguised as coming from a trusted resource like your boss, a client that you know, Microsoft, another vendor you work with, perhaps the IRS. They aim to trick your employees into clicking, logging in, or downloading something. This is a fast, cheap, and unfortunately, shockingly effective way for an attacker to get in. And even one click, just one, can expose the entire firm. Attackers rely on urgency. Like I said, they want to make it seem like you've got to act quick. Hey, your account is going to be deactivated. Your client invoice is overdue. And many of them will impersonate platforms that you know and that they know you do business with. They stalk you. when they go after somebody, they do their research first. They know what type of business works with what type of vendors, and they want to make it look like a vendor that you know. This is something that I got last week in my email box. Usually you're not going to have this big pink box at the top that's warning you not to click on this. I do because of a tool that I have, but most of the time it's going to come just like this. You know, your Microsoft 365 sign-in is set to expire. Scan this code and get it back up to date. Now, many of us have Microsoft 365 for our email. This is something we're familiar with. Many of us have set up multi-factor authentication through there before with the help of our IT provider or on our own, and we had to scan a QR code. This looks really familiar. It looks really good. Once they get you to sign in and scan that QR code and follow the prompts, they have harvested your credentials. Then they use them to gain access to your mailbox. And this is where they study what you do, who you do it with, and prepare to launch their attack. Once a cyber criminal gets access to an employee's email box, which is usually through one of those successful phishing attempts we just talked about, and most of the time, unfortunately, the employee doesn't even know that they've been tricked. They entered their password, they entered their credentials, they went on about their day, and this sort of attack may not happen for weeks, months, maybe even a year later. The criminal does not strike right away. They play the long game. They spy. They study the inbox. They quietly read. They read the internal emails between staff members. They read communications with your vendors and your clients. They look at your recurring billing cycles, your payroll timing, your invoice requests. They look at signature lines and writing style. They even review your tone. Sometimes they will set up forwarding rules in the background of your email box and start forwarding these types of emails, leaving a copy in your mailbox so nothing is suspicious, and forwarding a copy of it out to themselves so that then they can use AI to start duplicating some of this content. They are identifying and looking for patterns. Who approves payments in your company? Which clients are high value? When do wire transfers typically happen? Who are your trusted vendors, and what are your email habits with them? Now, this next thing we're going to talk about is really what we've been seeing a lot of. After they've studied you and your daily interactions, they have been registering a spoofed domain. It mimics that like they're a vendor or a payroll company that you transact money with and that you've interacted with several times. A spoofed domain is really one of the primary ways we've been seeing them be successful in the past few weeks. We actually have helped just 2 businesses in the last week who have fallen victim to this. A spoof domain is a fake website or a fake email address that looks almost identical to the real one, and it's designed to fool you into thinking that the message is trustworthy. They are relying on our human error here. We skim emails and trust logos, and we don't typically look for tiny details like the O in Microsoft being off, or the I in DocuSign.net being a 1, or the payrollsecure.com being the L in payroll being 1 instead of an L. They look legitimate, and when just one letter is off, it often is all it takes to trick somebody. And I don't know about you, but I have to use these reading glasses now. So if I'm not really tuned in, my eyes don't always catch something like that. These look legitimate, and they typically will bypass a basic spam filter, especially if the message does not have an attachment or some sort of malware embedded into it. Then they launch their attack. So they've made their fake domain, they've studied your behavior, they know who you're usually getting emails from and invoices from, they know who you pay. They launch their attack by sending the fake invoice or request or whatever it might be, sometimes straight from your mailbox and sometimes through this fake domain name. Most recently, we've been seeing them use the fake domain name. And they send it to someone you trust or someone that's expecting this invoice, or vice versa. They may get into somebody else's email, one of your vendor's emails, and send one of these to you, knowing that you're getting ready to pay your vendor. We've seen it happen both ways. And because they're using AI to copy these emails, to copy your tone, to copy the artistic devices of the invoicing and stuff like that, it looks real. And it's so successful that in many cases, people are paying the money to the bad actors. Hackers rely on our fast-paced work, and that's how they are successful. They rely on the cadence that we're normally using to take advantage of us. And the best way to combat this is for us to just slow down. We have to inspect the links. We have to see if they look suspicious. We need to check spelling. We need to ask ourselves, is this something that I was expecting? And if there is one small thing that makes you feel it's a little off, you need to stop and verify through a known channel, not by replying or clicking to that email. Pick up the phone, make a phone call, walk into the office next to you, ask somebody, call the vendor directly and ask them. That has been the best way that people have stopped these type of attacks. Last week we were dealing with a construction company, and a vendor had been infiltrated their email system, and they had sent out requests for payment, and they actually paid it, but the bank knew of this account number that the money was being transacted to. It was a crypto account, and the bank actually stopped it. So really understanding and looking at what's going on. If you're slowing down, knowing what domain names you're having transactions with, and looking for those little misspellings is really important. The next way firms are vulnerable is through bad password practices. We see this all the time, and let's just face it, passwords are a pain. I get it. There's thousands of them that we have to remember, and we can't just use a simple, weak one, and so sometimes that makes it really challenging for us. And again, I'll throw myself under the bus. As I get older, remembering things like that get harder, right? So weak and reused passwords are one of our weaknesses, and storing passwords in places that we shouldn't can be a really costly mistake. 80% of breaches leverage stolen or weak passwords. Let's talk about weak passwords. What is a weak password? It's commonly shorter than 10 characters. It might use a common phrase like password 123, or a simple sequence like ABCD 1234. Real words with no symbols or numbers are weak, and weak passwords are one of the easiest ways for cyber criminals to break into accounts. And once they're in, they often then have access to that sensitive client data, those financial records, and email systems. They don't have to be in your email box to start stalking your firm. They can use password dictionaries that give the most common password combinations. They can use AI-powered cracking tools to guess the patterns that people are using and start working to crack your password. They can also go to the dark web, which is a place that houses leaked passwords and databases from past breaches, and they can purchase passwords there. Why is reusing our password risky? If one site gets breached, attackers will take that password that was taken off that site, and they will try it on everything from your email to your client portal. They even go personal. They go to your Amazon account, your PayPal PayPal account, your American Express account, and they try that password. And if you've reused that password somewhere, it is likely that now they have access to more than one thing. Many phishing scams work because reused credentials are being used across multiple systems and applications. So what are the current best practices? What should my password be? We should be using long password phrases, something like, my dog has 4 paws and loud bark. And it's including upper and lowercase numbers and symbols. And we're varying those long passphrases across our applications, our devices, and any other platforms that we're logging into. Now, I know what you're all thinking right now, right? How am I going to remember all of these passwords? And you're probably giving me this look right now. And I want to ask you, are you making this browser security mistake? Are you relying on your browser and the memory on your computer to help you remember these passwords? Are you saying yes when the browser says, save this password for you? Or the memory on your computer says, do you want Windows to remember this so you don't have to type it again? Many of us are automatically just clicking. Either we're not reading this prompt and we're just clicking, or we're clicking yes because we know that that makes our job easier to remember all these passwords. This is a no-no. We do not want to fall into this practice. Cyber criminals can steal your password from the browser storage if they have access to your machine. And they love stealing passwords stored in web browsers because it gives them direct access to email, banking portals, cloud apps, and more without ever even needing to phish or try to guess your password. They also can steal your browser cache without having access to your machine. They do it by using info stealing malware. Like once a user clicks a malicious link or downloads a fake attachment, malware can silently be installed on your computer. This type of malware is often called a credential stealer or an info stealer, and it's designed specifically to scan browser files like Chrome, Edge, and Firefox. It extracts saved usernames, passwords, and let's be real, some of us even store our credit card information in these browsers. And then it sends that data back to the attacker in seconds. Now, there is no red buzzing light that goes off unless you have an IT provider that has a lot of security software on your machine. You may not even know this happened. And even sometimes they're always working to get ahead of that security software. So occasionally there's a new piece of malware that has been developed that the security software hasn't been designed to catch yet. We have to be really careful what we're clicking on, right? Because that's our biggest weakness. It sends the data back to that attacker in seconds. The other thing they do is they use remote access tools. So in some attacks, the criminals, when you click that link or you download something, they install a remote access Trojan, and that lets them control the machine and manually browse the victim's stored passwords, just like the user could do. They also can take advantage of abusing the sync features of our devices. So, your devices can sync with other devices that you have. Your Apple phone can sync with your Apple iPad. Your laptop can sync with other devices in the office if it's set up to do so. So a lot of times if a user is signed in to Chrome or Edge and that is syncing across their devices, an attacker who gains access to one device can easily get access to all devices. Another reason why people like us, cyber tools, are not very popular is because we do not proponent for people to be able to be an administrator level user on their workstation. This is a pain in the butt because when you want to download a printer and add a new printer to your machine or open up Pandora and start listening to it for the day, if it isn't in your allowed set of things to do, or it's having you download something, and it'll take administrator privileges to do that. So we don't like to give people administrative privileges. They then have to go through another step to get those privileges by calling us or saying, hey, can we get this printer downloaded or something like that. Makes us not very popular, but the reason we stand behind that is because the other way that cyber criminals expose firms is by using administrator privileges to navigate the network, to get from one computer to another. So sometimes they get into your computer and they use those privileges to then go to the server or to then go to another user's computer in the firm. So that is why we're not so popular about our administrator privileges, but it is for, it's for the best. So how should you store your password? I'm going to tell you, it's not on a sticky note underneath your keyboard. It's not on an Excel spreadsheet stored within your My Documents folder. And it's not in a password book that you carry around with you in your purse. It is in a password manager. That is the best place, and it is like a secured vault that stores all of your login credentials, so you don't have to remember dozens of the complex passwords or reuse the same weak one. It creates strong, unique passwords automatically. So no more welcome 123 or no more reused passwords across accounts. It will generate these passwords for you that are harder to guess or crack. If you think that password has been compromised or you want to change it, you just click a button when you're inside that password vault and it does rotate that password. Now, I'm sure many of you have heard in the news in previous times that some of these password encrypted vaults have been infiltrated. Nothing that you do is 100%. It is a game of cat and mouse, and the cyber criminals are always working to get ahead of the security software. So yes, occasionally a password keeper has been infiltrated or has been stolen, but if you change your password to that quickly, they have been unable and unsuccessful in most cases to get in there. So it still remains your best bet of keeping your passwords. It is an encrypted vault and it does sit at the browser level and it does sync across your other devices so that you can have it on your phone and on your laptop and on your desktop. You don't have to remember everything. You just have to remember one master password, which you're going to make the big, long, strong password that's complex. You don't have to have sticky notes or spreadsheets anymore, and it helps to protect you against the phishing and the credential theft. It also kind of recognizes real and fake websites. So sometimes if there's a known fake website to the piece of software, it won't even let you put your credentials in there. So this is the best way at this time to keep your passwords stored safely. Another layer of protection that we suggest is 2FA. Using a password manager helps to eliminate the risk of a hacker stealing your credentials. But there is this one more layer of protection that acts as your last line of defense. If your password manager is your front door key or your password itself is your front door key, multi-factor authentication is the deadbolt that stops the intruders from walking right in, and it can be your last line of defense. Multi-factor authentication adds an extra layer of protection. It stops the stolen password from being enough to get into your device or your application. Even if an attacker gets the password through a phishing or a spoofed domain or the malware or the browser theft, they can't log in unless they have your second factor. It can be something you have, like a key, or it can be something you are, like your fingerprint or your face or your eye. It can be something you know, like a push notification to your cell phone that has you enter a code. Without it, the stolen password is useless. So if we're using multi-factor authentication, that stolen password doesn't get the cybercriminal anywhere, because they now have to have the second line of defense. It adds the human checkpoint, and it forces you to pause and confirm login activity. So sometimes what we see is they also can steal your Microsoft 365 login token from your browser, and we will see somebody trying to log into that email account from a different location that you're not at. But if you have that multi-factor authentication turned on, they cannot get in to that without you authenticating that it's okay. And if you're sitting there and all of a sudden you get an authentication request, you're not going to say yes to it if it's not you trying to log in. It prevents unauthorized logins from strange locations. It prevents access to sensitive systems, and internal account takeovers can be prevented with multi-factor authentication. Gaining popularity now, even for the small or mid-sized firm, is using multi-factor authentication just to log in to your computer, not just for your email, but also to log into your computer. And that is because they can't get into the computer without that second thing that you have. All right, let's review. An attack path on firms these days looks like spear phishing, where they personally attack you with a convincing email that they've created urgency with. It looks like business email compromise, where they hijack a trusted sender's email. It looks like a payroll or an invoice diversion scam, where they change your invoice, change the domain name, and get you to pay an invoice to the wrong person. It looks like credential harvesting, where they steal your passwords and make fake login pages to collect that info. It looks like malware or ransomware that are hidden in attachments and you don't even know that you've clicked. I can't impress enough that a lot of times you've clicked, someone in your organization, one of your employees has clicked these links thinking they're real, not knowing that they even did it, and then weeks or months later, these type of attacks happen. Training our employees is our #1 way to defend against this type of attacking. When something seems off, you need to give them the 3-step playbook. Stop and verify, report internally, and never click a suspicious link. We have to start normalizing hesitation, because we're better safe than breached. Now, this goes against, productivity that we talk about all the time with our teams and getting as much done in the amount of time that we're there. But taking that extra moment to stop, verify, and report is really the most powerful thing you can do. And questioning anything that feels off is important. Some of our key takeaways: phishing and scams are increasing, so they're always getting better with AI. AI has really changed the game and made it easy for people to impersonate. Staff vigilance is our first and last line of defense, and simple tools like password managers and multi-factor authentication can prevent most of the attacks. Training makes your firm stronger than the average person. So we actually have today some free resources for your team. I'm going to go ahead and leave this up there for you if you'd like to scan this and request them. We have a PDF version of a cyber safety checklist that you could use to go over with your team. It just asks some different questions, and we also are offering this recording session available if you would like to request it. So if you want to, I'll leave this up here for a couple more seconds here so you can scan. Always you can email us at info@cybertools.us. That's info@cybertools.us if you want any of these free resources. Also, if you don't know us yet and you want to stay in touch, or you'd like to get a second set of eyes on your IT setup, we'd love to invite you for a free IT health check. We've got a couple people on staff that can talk to you, talk through that PDF health check document with you, and help with some tips.